It was a stunning moment that left many in disbelief. President Trump standing before an audience, repeating Russian propaganda and falsely blaming Ukraine for starting the war. Nearly 3 years have passed since Vladimir Putin sent his troops into Ukraine. Yet here was a former American president echoing Kremlin talking points. Traveling with Trump in Florida, our correspondent Jeff Zeleny reports that these were some of the harshest remarks we've heard from any U.S. leader directed at Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. And the timing? It couldn't be more critical. As Trump made these claims, key discussions between the U.S. and Russia were underway, talks that could determine Ukraine's future. But notably, Zelensky wasn't at the table. Asked about Ukraine's exclusion from these talks, Trump's response was sharp and dismissive. He accused Zelensky of failing to prevent the war, claiming, "You should have ended it 3 years ago. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal." But history tells a different story. It was Putin who ordered the full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. Russia came from the north, the east, and the south, launching a brutal war that has devastated Ukraine ever since. Trump didn't stop at blaming Zelensky. He went further, belittling his leadership and questioning his approval ratings, despite polls showing Ukrainian support for their president remains around 50%. He even suggested Ukraine should hold elections, ignoring the fact that martial law, enforced due to Russia's invasion, makes elections impossible. As these remarks echoed around the world, American and Russian diplomats gathered in Saudi Arabia to discuss the war's possible resolution, without Ukraine in the room. Our national security correspondent, Alex Marquardt, reports that for Ukraine, Trump's words confirm their worst fears. Not only is he blaming them for the war, but his rhetoric raises concerns about potential U.S. concessions to Russia. By framing Ukraine as the aggressor, he is undermining his own country's negotiating team and signaling a shift that could deeply impact Ukraine's future. Behind closed doors in Riyadh, key agreements were being made. Secretary of State Marco Rubio outlined the outcomes, normalizing embassy operations in Moscow and Washington, appointing high-level delegations to engage in Ukrainian peace talks, and, perhaps most notably, offering Russia long-term economic and investment cooperation opportunities. Some see this as a diplomatic step forward. Others see it as the West opening the door to Russia's reintegration while Ukraine continues to suffer. Meanwhile, Trump's latest comments are sending shockwaves through diplomatic circles. His claim that U.S. troops should not be in Ukraine directly contradicts what both Ukrainian and European leaders have been advocating, that American security guarantees are essential to Ukraine's survival. The message from the U.S. administration is now uncertain, leaving allies and adversaries alike questioning where the U.S. truly stands. Former Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman reacted with outrage, calling Trump's remarks a complete rewriting of history. She emphasized that Russia's invasion was illegal and that blaming Zelensky plays directly into Putin's hands. The strategy, she suggests, is clear: humiliate Zelensky, weaken Ukraine's position, and pressure them into concessions. But having been in Ukraine, she asserts that the Ukrainian people will not back down. They are resilient, determined, and fighting not just for their country, but for their very existence. CNN's former Moscow bureau chief Jill Duggarty weighed in, pointing out that Putin is officially recognized as a war criminal by the International Criminal Court. She noted that Russia received significant diplomatic gains today while facing little accountability. In her words, the negotiations appear to be rewarding Russia rather than holding them responsible. For those who have followed this war closely, one thing is clear: the evidence is undeniable. The world saw what happened on February 24, 2022. The videos exist, the reports exist, the testimonies exist. Putin launched this war in an attempt to erase Ukraine's sovereignty, and Trump's words today will only embolden those who wish to rewrite history. The question now is, what comes next? And more importantly, Who will stand by Ukraine when it matters most?